This is our third series on coastal resiliency. So this one is on recreating responsibly. My name is Roshini. Like I said, I'm the advocacy coordinator here at Save the Dunes. And I just wanted to mention this is part of a grant. So thank you to DNR. So this is part of our Lake Michigan Coastal Program series, specifically about coastal resiliency topics in Northwest Indiana. So I just want to give a huge thank you to our Lake Michigan Coastal Program right here in Northwest Indiana. Without further ado, let's talk about recreating responsibly. Okay, so just a general overview about who we are, just in case you're unfamiliar. So our organization has been here since 1952. We support policies and actions that protect the Indiana Dunes, Lake Michigan, and the surrounding natural areas, and the people who live, work, and recreate in Northwest Indiana. This is our mission statement. If you've seen it before, that is why. You're probably familiar with this. And we do a lot of our program work through conservation, advocacy, and community engagement. So I am the advocacy coordinator, so I focus a lot on our advocacy work. We have M, who focuses on our community engagement work, and then we have our program director, Katie, who focuses on our conservation work. So like I said, this is a series. So we've already talked about wetlands. We've done living in the dunes as well, and like a general coastal resiliency webinar. This one is about recreating responsibly, and these are the other ones that are coming up. So we have a protecting biodiversity one. This one's going to be specifically at the Paul Douglas Center in Miller Woods. We're going to have Ranger Zach from the National Park do a guided hike, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you can protect biodiversity in your own backyard. We also have a virtual shoreline erosion presentation where we're going to have two professors from the Great Lakes Institute in the University of Michigan talk about shoreline erosion issues in Northwest Indiana. So look forward to that. And those are coming up quite soon.
Do we have a time for that?
Yes. So November 21st is for the shoreline erosion one. That's later. That's the last one we're going to do. The protecting biodiversity one is October 18th at the Paul Douglas Center. Yes, 4:30. Yeah, and we'll send out, I know Em's gonna send out some information about that. Probably should, but anyway, okay. So we just want to start with what exactly coastal resiliency is, the brief definition of it. So the definition of coastal resiliency definitely changes depending on where you live. So this is our regional definition. We talk to a lot of our partners in the area that do a lot of the on the ground work. And this is the definition that we came up with. So our definition is the ability to respond, withstand, and adapt to the impacts of natural hazards within the Lake Michigan watershed region. And we're going to see a big map that really highlights what that region is and where we're talking about. So some examples of this in our region include green infrastructure, nature-based solutions for erosion issues, invasive species management, but there's a whole lot more than that. So now we're going to really see what the Lake Michigan watershed is. So this whole region is the Lake Michigan watershed. So what I really want to highlight is that it doesn't only include those specific communities that border or exactly adjacent to Lake Michigan. It's all of those communities that are south of the Lake Michigan area or the shoreline. And most likely, if you are watching this, you are probably going to be part of this coastal community. So the big issue that we have is a lot of people who don't live on the shoreline don't think of themselves as part of a coastal community, but you are. So any area on this blue section right here on the map means that you are part of a coastal community. So any of these issues really pertain and you are affected by because of all of these little tiny blue lines, which are basically the rivers or other areas or tributaries that connect eventually to Lake Michigan, which means, of course, that all of the water quality issues, all of the water pollution issues that are in those tributaries also are connected to the lake. So everything is connected. And so if you're in this area, make sure that you understand that you are definitely part of the coastal community and, bring that pride as well. And to the right here, you can see the Lake Michigan watershed sign. Thank you, Em, for that, because that is one of the signs that you can see when you are driving on 94, and it will show you that when you enter the Lake Michigan watershed. So if you do see those, you will now know that you're entering the Lake Michigan watershed. So those are DNR signs. Okay, so I just wanted to start and talk about what exactly recreating responsibly means. So when we're talking about recreating responsibly, we mean reducing your impact when you recreate so that the natural resources remain beautiful and accessible for future generations. So any effect that we have on people, on animals, and on the environment that's kind of what we're talking about. And of course, there's so many ways to reduce your impact outdoors, but we're going to talk about, a couple of them today. So I'm going to stop, and then we're going to have a discussion about how recreating responsibly contributes to coastal resiliency. Now that we saw the definition of coastal resiliency and we saw the definition of recreating responsibly, how does recreating responsibly contribute to that? So first, we're going to talk about why recreating responsibly is important, and then how does that specifically contribute, and then some examples of recreating responsibly in the Lake Michigan watershed region. So as we talk about examples, just consider any recreation experiences that you've had in any natural areas in the Lake Michigan watershed area. So of course, that would include anything from the Indiana Dunes National Park, Indiana Dunes State Park, or any other preserves around this area. So now we're going to have a discussion. I'm going to get out of presenter mode. And so I want you to tell me what recreating responsibly, why is it important first? And then how does it contribute to coastal resiliency? Thinking about those definitions. And then we're going to talk about examples. So anyone can now just jump in and tell me examples. I'm going to write them right here. So and there's no wrong answers as well. That's what I was want to say. Just it's different for every person, but why do you think recreating responsibly is important? And how does that contribute to our area? There's no wrong answers.
I like to say that the ecosystems are delicate, that they're already dealing with enough threat that our human impact shouldn't be an additional threat to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. For sure. Anything else?
Well, I think you want to leave a minimal footprint, is how I look at it. So, yes, I'm here, I'm living here, I'm enjoying this beautiful place. But I want the next person to feel like they're the first person in that space, that I haven't left something behind, whether it's garbage or something else that would be distasteful to the next person. We should all feel like we're the first visitors there.
Are you
I
sure?
think what you said about whether it's something today, like picking up trash, or something that, next week or next season, or the cyclical nature of water movement.
Almost like the distant future, right? Okay. Anything else? Anything?
I say it contributes to the region's resiliency. And that it's sort of like avoiding, there's certain things in place to avoid the problems. Like we already put kind of, what routes to go on, or what is species that are invasive, or what, there's a lot of already existing education around that, so it contributes to it by following along with those already existing rules or already existing knowledge.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. That's a good list. Anything else? Yeah. Okay. So now this is probably, there's so many examples, but what are some examples of recreating responsibly?
Leave no trace, so.
Yeah.
Leave like someplace better than you found it.
Yep.
I think it's wonderful that you bring that way, whether examples of ways to do it responsibly, because I know a whole lot more about how to be irresponsible.
Yeah,
Oh, we
And
are.
you
Tell
could
me.
go on and on,
Yeah.
Alright,
yeah.
so you almost have to, for each of those, you have to have kind of what's, how do you balance that?
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's because there's so many different natural spaces in our area? Or do you think it's maybe just because of the amount of visitors that are here?
It's it's every,
Mhm.
and as little as children or adults
Mhm.
digging a big little hole.
Oh, no.
You read my mind this whole time, I was like, how are we gonna get them to ban holes?
Holes, oh.
Yeah.
Where was this? In the national park?
Oh my God, he doesn't go to the beach.
See, that's the problem. Yeah, I just stay indoors.
And then we fell in one the other day.
Yeah,
Thursday.
walking there and it was someone had left a hole. So you can't leave it better than you found it, then you can fill your hole.
Yeah.
If you're gonna
If you-
dig it, then
if
you have to
need to
backfill
dig for
it.
whatever.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, then fill it up and put it back to where it was.
Crazy. Okay, so leave no trace, fishers digging holes in natural air. That's interesting. Did not know that.
Like understanding with the national park, that like it's open to explore, because it's this like natural space, and I was on the Joshua Tree, and so many people just taking off into the spaces, and oh, because they're not saying don't go there, but you can go there, so I think that's part of the, like you said, unlearning the bad habits, where just because there's not a sign saying don't go there, doesn't mean you should.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, as much as the signage is disturbing it, because it interferes with the natural audience, I think as humans, we need that reminder. At all levels of intelligence, I was gonna say stupidity, but we've all done it. I think and you go, oh, why did I do that? Why did I wander off there? We were walking the trail here and we were staying and my partner did not, and I said,
Get on the
get on the trail. Just because you don't know, you don't do that, we don't
Right.
disturb that, but then the natural, okay, we're just gonna wander. So did he need a sign to stay on the trail, which there is at the beginning of the trail, but yes, reminders because it is human nature, we go against.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think another example of recreating responsibly is being intentional about where you're going, so, because a big part of it is leaving no traces, to not rely on a garbage can, or not rely on access to water bottles, like you need to be prepared before going out.
Mhm.
Obviously, I've been thinking about this too much, but I think that there is a tendency for children of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s
Mhm.
to, what do? You go to the beach, you climb up the dune, you roll down it, that's what you do. That's what you do when you go to the dune. And we teach little folks that this is not the biggest do. And run, or whatever, and then go back in the winter with your sled.
At least they took the dune buggies off the dune, that were there.
Yeah.
Because that is something that people who visited in the sixties and seventies inquire about all the time. Where are the dune buggies? So no, that is smart, that has been
Yeah.
mixed off these precious dunes. So there has been, again, the optimism, there has been improvement, because if they continue to build industry and ride dune buggies, what would have happened? You know, so, right, not that it didn't do damage, it did, but how do we prevent it from happening further? Because there's a natural erosion that happens without them, that's right. So that the water's doing its thing, the wind is doing its thing, so humans, and I think that's it, being aware that it's already happening, don't add to that. Okay?
Mhm.
And a little bit of us, whoever won for 5,000, 1,200,000, right, and that is, a lot of people And I think the tourism is trying to do a good job, even on their front cover of their one magazine, what are people doing? Running down the dunes, and I'm like, and I kind of said, then yes, can I sled on the dunes? No, you can't. sled. Where are the sleds? Do they really know? And there's signs, you know, this is the one area you can climb it, stay on the trail, and but they don't, they go up the dune and they go.
Mhm.
Right,
Right.
whole time, so,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
right. Issues already happen, yep, don't do it.
don't do it, yeah.
So do you think the whole trail thing is like the area where you can have the most impact? Is it
On the trails,
staying on the trail? If everybody stayed on the trail, would that be a huge thing?
I think it would be a really fundamental part of the dunes being stabilized. And I think right now with our visitorship levels being at all-time highs and the behaviors continuing, it is gonna be very detrimental. So if we can get people to stay off of them, then we actually just shared a photo of West Beach from above with all the social trails through, and people were asking, well, on the other photo, is that what we want it to look like? No trails. I said, yeah, and it gets stabilized and then it's better off. So I think that's definitely a first. And then the second for us is really we're worried about plastic pollution in the water and on the beaches and in the trails. And it's this hard combination of places of disposal because a lot of our trails are pack in, pack out. And so again, that for me is why being prepared, being aware that where you're going, what are the facilities to where you're going, and being a more informed visitor, I think would just all around be helpful.
yeah, I think it's a repetitive process, it doesn't stop, as
Yeah.
we know, it's continual. And make sure if the person who was around in the sixties didn't hear it then, they're gonna hear it now, and the person in the seventies, eighties, now we have a whole new generation. And how, again, do we educate children, adults of the children, families of the children, whatever, all that has to be reiterated, and it seems kind of redundant. But it has to be done, and you can't.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, that was great. I had a feeling that we would have a lot of examples. So just to recap, why is recreating responsibly important and how does it contribute to our region's resiliency? So we came up with ecosystems are delicate, not leaving something for someone else in the distant future. So thinking about, next season, next year, et cetera. Wanting to make sure that there's nothing distasteful to the next person who visits, and contributing to the region's resiliency. Existing education around this already is there. So contributing to this and just really adding on to the education overall. And then, of course, examples for recreating responsibly. There's a lot. So many examples, balancing the amount of visitors with the amount of natural spaces. So just thinking about that when we're recreating, leave no trace. Visitors digging holes in natural areas. That's a new one for me. If that happens, I'm gonna be like, what is happening right now? We should take pictures and tell DNR. So recreating issues already happened, so not adding to that, just generally. National parks are open to explore, but having to unlearn the bad habits. So just because it says you can't go there doesn't mean that you should. So just kind of using common sense when we're recreating, not relying on water bottles, other equipment on a trail. So just bringing everything with you that you need. And then, pack in, pack out, bringing everything out, not leaving anything on the trails. Sometimes visitors wander, so, having a sign, like making sure that they, kind of intuitively know to stay off trails, not going off trails is definitely going to help. Historically, having the people here, being able to go up dunes before and then having them, unlearn this and follow the designated trails for sure. I think that's a huge one. And then no longer riding dune buggies on the dune. That is an example of that as well. So,
Oh, where that would happen now.
I mean, it happened when we looked in Michigan City and Sheridan Beach.
Yeah.
So I think private homeowners definitely do the dune buggy thing. It's a little bit of trying to, teach them to, think about what they're doing and how that impacts us. So, yeah, but this was great. Okay, great. So now Okay, so why is it important in our region? So we kind of talked about the numbers already, but just so we all know, so according to the Indiana Dunes National Park, they had over 2.77 million visitors in 2023. So that's a lot. It is, of course, significantly increased since they have become a national park in 2019. That's one of the big reasons, because now it really put us on the map. And now that we have an official national park designation, so that is a huge reason why. But, you know, just in case, you know, that is only going to grow. I think every time we talk to national park, it's going to be probably 3. They're anticipating something like 3.2 million for next year. So this number will definitely increase. So of course, because of this huge 2.77 million number, everyone's actions really do matter. So we all have a role to play, especially if you live here, to protect our incredible biodiversity. You know, we have shorelines, but we also have dunes, we have forests, we have wetlands. So making sure that we keep and preserve all this incredible biodiversity is really important. And then alternatively, the state park had 2 million people visit in 2023. So that is the most visited state park in all of Indiana. So once again, still in the state and the national park, we want to make sure that we do our part, recreate responsibly, and leave no trace. So just really big. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Feel that way.
I know, and I don't, I mean, as a resident and as an employee of the park, I don't wanna feel that way because I wanna share that love with everyone.
Yeah.
But a part of aging is saying, just go. And close it closed.
Like get away. Yeah.
It sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's got, well, I mean, you know, they have to recreate responsibly, and sometimes the people who don't live here, they don't do that, so we need to make sure
Well,
that.
and I think even just the long lines, when I see all those cars and
Ugh.
fumes.
Yeah.
3-4 hours of lines.
Oh my gosh.
And what that is doing
Yeah.
to not the dune directly,
Mhm.
but the environment of which the dune and you and I survive.
Right.
So
No.
that is a part of me that just.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. So now that we kind of talked about it, I just wanted to kind of reiterate, how does recreating responsibly contribute to coastal resiliency? So we talked about this a little bit, but of course, human interaction with the natural world, we've been talking about this a lot, can impact how well nature responds to climate and human-made hazards. So of course, this includes anything from shoreline erosion, from, you know, plastic pollution issues. Social trails, of course, destroy important flora and fauna and can lead to habitat loss and shoreline erosion. So really following those signs. So this is a really good picture of one of the dunes and one of the signs that say keep off the dune. So making sure that people, you know, follow the signs, don't, you know, go just on the top of the dune, don't create social trails. Will definitely decrease shoreline erosion. So specifically for dune ecosystems, this root structure of marram grass holds the sand in place. So all of those grasses in that picture on the bottom, that's all marram grass. So if you walk on those and destroy all that marram grass, it really just, you know, completely will destroy the dune. It causes all the sand to blow away. It won't, you know, really impact it and keep it really compacted and keep it in shape. So making sure that we don't create those social trails will, you know, decrease shoreline erosion.
Heard someone say the other day, they're like, well, the dunes are hard to climb, but if you climb closer to the grass, it's easier.
Oh,
but
no.
The dunes are harder there, and I had to be like, you mean that, you want the whole dune to be hard.
Yeah,
Then you
that's-
can't walk on it, that's the whole.
That's the whole
Just
point.
walk closer to the grass, just walk
Right.
closer to the edge of where it's being stabilized.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, we need that marram grass. So yeah, that marram grass is the only reason why we don't have the dune just, you know, on Highway 12 right now. Like, it's just like, seriously, we need that. We need that. So yes, we love that marram grass. So, you know, just making sure to follow those keep off dune signs. So we are just now going to talk about the impacts of social trails. So we had that sign, but this is a really good example of a dune social trail before and after the off-trail destruction. So as you can see, I mean, that is a huge clear cut distinction that you can see of how much vegetation is gone now because of that social trail on the right. So it really does make a difference. You know, this is kind of a close up, but now we're going to kind of look at a very large view of this. So this is West Beach specifically. And so as you can see on the left, this is the current condition of West Beach. And on the right, it's what it was going to be if there are no social trails. So all those little tiny, divots and all those little sand areas are social trails, and there's hundreds of them. And so, of course, the national park is really concerned about this. This, of course, increases shoreline erosion, especially in West Beach. I mean, if you've been to Porter, the lakefront area, you can see all of the destruction. So you definitely can see a huge difference from the left and the right screen. So, just making sure that we really think about how social trails really impact our ecosystem. So, of course, we're now going to talk about the benefits of recreating responsibly for communities, because we all live in this community. So, of course, leading to less habitat loss, less shoreline erosion, but also less flood risks and stormwater runoffs. So, thinking about it as a homeowner, this is something that you really want to think about, and this will really affect your community. So having resilient plants, making sure that we keep all of our natural spaces intact and preserve them will really help with a lot of these weather patterns, increasing weather patterns, such as a lot of flooding issues, stormwater, what have you. So keeping these natural spaces as untouched as possible will really contribute to this. And then, of course, just having more plant and animal diversity in your backyards. The more diversity, the better, the more resilient your community is going to be. So these would be kind of the big picture issues that communities should care about. So these are going to be the ecological benefits for recreating responsibly. So of course, less ecosystem destruction is one of the huge benefits. So a big, huge problem is off-leash pets. I'm sure that Lady D can tell us all about off-leash pets at the state park. So off-leash pets can cause a lot of plant destruction. They trample and destroy a lot of extremely biodiverse areas. So making sure that when you are on a trail, if you do have a pet, keep them on a leash. Making sure that they do not kill all of these precious plants and destroy the ecosystems. And of course, invasive species, that's a huge thing that we care about here. And then making sure that they also are not introduced into the ecosystem. So according to our Indian Dunes National Park records, it is now the 5th most biologically diverse among all the US national parks in the country. So making sure that we keep this biodiversity intact is a huge deal here with 11 different types of ecosystems. This is something that we care about. So, and of course, invasive species management is important to protecting these biodiverse habitats. So thinking about that as well. So now the economic benefits for recreating responsibly. So this is something that we talked about in the wetlands presentation, but just to reiterate, Americans spend more than $100 billion on wetland related recreational activities each year. And that's specifically just for wetland related activities. So just think about the other related activities that we do in our region. So we have, of course, more than 3 million park visitors in our region each year between the national and the state park. So making sure that we maintain this ecosystem to support tourism is, of course, important. And just some other numbers. So according to the Northwest Indiana Times, in 2021, which is the most recent year that we have data available, visitors to the park spent an estimated $156 million in Northwest Indiana. And of course, this supported an estimated 1,880 jobs and 88.8 million in income in the entire region. So that's thinking about all 3 counties, Lake, Porter, and LaPorte County. So those are some really big numbers. So of course, all of our natural spaces bring in a lot of money. And so making sure that we conserve them, that we protect them is also of economic importance to us. So, that's something that we bring up when we talk to our legislators as well. We like those numbers. Yes, we like our numbers. So just thinking about how important that is and how much the economic revenue really comes back to our region. So how can you help? So this is probably one of the top 3 things that we would love you to take away. So making sure that pets are on leashes. We talked about it a little bit, but really kind of driving home the fact that pets cause severe destruction to the ecosystem if they are left to freely move in protected areas. And also not foraging or hunting in areas unless expressly allowed. We talked a lot to some of our partners, mainly Humane Indiana. They talk about, the hunting issues that happen in natural spaces when you're not allowed to. So just making sure to follow the law and really follow the instructions when you're doing those things. And then swimming in areas when a lifeguard is on duty. Of course, every single year, at least 1 or 2 people die on our lake, on our shoreline. So in 2024, so far, at least 4 people have died. in the Lake Michigan due to recreating in unsafe conditions. So a lot of it is, walking on shelf ice. If it's going without, swimming when there's a lifeguard on duty, when it's unsafe water conditions. So just, we don't want people dying. We like people recreating here, but we like it when you recreate responsibly and leave with your life. So, just thinking about how, yeah, leave with your life, leave with, right, exactly. So, just thinking about, make sure that you recreate, but, responsibly and also, diligently. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, how many people have recreated in the water without a lifeguard? Have you, I mean, probably a lot, hundreds, probably, yeah.
And remember the national park is unguarded anyway, so.
Yeah.
That's the thing, they'll go there, it's always been swim at your own risk kind of thing.
Right.
And locals know the danger, there's no doubt, it's not locals, it's the visitors. And again, as you said, the impact of the quantity of visitors, so yes, we educate them. As I said, I think there needs to be a flag system or something.
Yeah.
Since there's not, yes, they put the rescue rings out, but I think they need to do a flag system.
Flag system.
But again, it's a man situation, which is.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. So, just following what you can do as a resident.
Let me just add one thing.
Yeah, of course.
Well, not just one thing,
Yeah,
but,
please.
it would be extremely helpful if there was consistent cell phone service along the shore of Lake Michigan. And when people say, oh, I have AT&T who works here, I have Frontier, but that's not the issue. All the carriers, all around that.
Yeah.
Cause it's the same
And
thing,
that-
right? If you
Right.
can't call it in, it's.
I am told that we as folks who vote need to make it a priority, and we do. We all need to let our legislators know, this is a really big deal. And if you don't even remember what the name of your beach is, and you're trying to call 911 and you don't have service and somehow, and they say, well, where are you? And
Yeah.
they can't even tell where you are because it's the service system.
And you think there's other people bring up like.
Yeah, that's interesting. I could follow up with you about that. We can,
Yeah.
for this.
I wish you would, you know what?
Yeah.
I would put you on a pedestal.
Yeah.
It is urgent. We
Yeah.
really need.
I wonder
Cell phone
how
service.
that's be.
Yeah, I don't know. For the national park, that would be a little bit harder because it's a federal area, but I wonder for state park, we could talk to our state representatives about,
Right.
Yes.
general cell phone service. I mean, is the state park, so depending on where you live, so do you live in Michigan City?
I do.
I'm in Dune,
And I
so,
have talked with Chuck,
okay.
and I just wondered if he was yours.
No, so for us here, it's, yeah, but it doesn't matter, yeah, it would,
The more you talk to him.
right. Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah,
I've never done that.
right. No, absolutely,
It is, if there was one thing that would make me feel better, is knowing that if there's a problem, you can call.
Yeah.
And right now, we don't know.
Does that mean that they put in phone boxes then? That's like the Everglades and Route 10 on Florida had because there was no service. Because of the density of the area and the obstructions, the natural obstruction, mountains, hills, trees, dunes.
And I certainly don't know the technology of it and boosters and towers.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I think it would either
talk to Rodney about it.
fall on a tower, and the
Yes.
tower, a closer
Yeah.
tower to the shoreline was what I would envision. Which then is gonna probably be tough on logistically placing it.
So some days you have service and some days you
Yeah.
don't.
Right.
Right, on the windows.
The phone idea.
The phone boxes are right, if they're an emergency, not to call your husband to say dinner, what's for dinner.
Right,
But to actually call for an emergency, we do have at the state park at the campground, an emergency box. Because I too, depending on which way the wind blows, right, you got the dune, you've got trees, which are not gonna cut to, as we talked about.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing, that those emergency phone boxes are something, they just dial 911. They don't call your sister, brother, or mother,
Yeah.
they're just
One
for
more
emergency.
thing to make it safer.
Yeah. Yes, well, that's what I'm saying.
And that's with the rescue rings almost,
Yes.
like there should be if it gets pulled off, it's getting
There you
911
go.
dial, like,
Yes.
that would be, I think,
Yeah, and the problem that we, as we know, people are snatching them off for
Right.
no emergency.
well, then they get called 911.
Yes.
Say.
Well,
either-
that's why
Right.
911 was there,
Yeah.
whether it's I'm sure they get
Yeah.
many false calls,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I think they need, because I don't think putting a cell tower on the beachfront is a good solution, so. And the towers there are.
Although there's probably many solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just, this is gonna
Well,
fix it.
yeah.
No.
You can help us.
Right, no, I think the call boxes, because that's, I know like every certain mile markers on 10 in the Everglades and then going across the Panhandle, there was emergency call boxes.
Right.
And so if you had, in the middle of the night and you're in your car, you need to be able to call for help, and so, yes, you might have to walk a little bit to get to that, but, yeah, it's interesting, yeah, no, definitely, I mean, life-saving situations.
Can you remember that? Cause I'm gonna ask
Yeah.
Rodney and Pat. Okay, yeah, we should talk to our state reps about that. We'll see if. That's a good point. So, just on a legislative about safety, so our state senator Rodney put up the life, rings
Yeah.
on the shoreline. So that's definitely.
He's a very knowledgeable person about this, we just need to push him.
Yeah,
Right.
that's-
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's a bipartisan, I think it's pretty
Yeah.
easy, you know, safety. Yes, yeah, right. So I think for sure we can press him about that. We'll see what we can do about that. So that's really interesting. Yeah. I had no idea, my goodness. Yeah, and I'm just thinking about for, you know, industrial issues too, you know, whenever we have like a pollution issue and somebody. It's usually somebody who's walking on the shoreline
Yeah.
who sees something and says, this doesn't look correct on the lake, and then, you know, calls. So if they don't have that. Who knows how long it's gonna be there for, so that's really important, yeah. Okay, so, kind of following our topic about what you can do as a resident in Northwest Indiana, talking about specifically cleaning our kayaks and boats, so making sure that we don't just dump the water into the lake, so properly disposing of the water and cleaning formula that we use when we're cleaning our boats is very, very important. We don't want to be dumping any of those used cleaning chemicals into the waterways or into our drain without thinking about it. That's going to get into our drinking water and other crazy things. So making sure that we properly dispose of it is really important. When we visit our natural areas, this goes into making sure that no invasive species get introduced into our ecosystems, making, if you see any of those boot brushes, cleaning those shoes to prevent any introductions of any non-native plants or animals into our other ecosystems. So especially if you're going, you know, out of state, out of country, and you are bringing back the same boots or the same shoes, brushing those off or cleaning them off to not accidentally include any invasive species into our ecosystems. So of course, we just kind of talked about this, but safe recreation. So not walking on shelf ice. And National Park always talks about it, but it always happens. At least one person dies by doing this. Not going in restricted areas, knowing the lake level, current conditions. So following the flags and choosing beaches that have some lifeguards. So, and of course, staying on designated plats when we recreate in nature. So these are kind of the other things that we wanted to bring up. So
They're saying with shelf ice, it's the equivalent of frozen foam.
yeah,
Basically,
Wow.
a way to put it is that it's not solid ice, it's just.
it's
Splash.
Right.
That's frozen over and
Yeah.
over, so it's really aerated and it's not
right.
solid at all.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so usually what happens is people go to the top of the shelf ice and then they just fall in and there's a hollow place in the middle and nobody can hear you, nobody can see you around. And so they'll just slowly just, you know, be by yourself and, you know, at least one person dies because they walk on the top of the shelf ice and then, you know, completely just fall through.
You shouldn't walk on there.
Yeah.
He said, I don't care what you say. I
Oh
said,
my
No one's
gosh.
gonna save you. when you
Yeah, no
fall
one,
into
yeah,
it."
no one can see you. Nobody can
Yeah.
hear you, nobody can see you. So it's basically just a hollow, you know, mountain that you're just surrounded by, you know, ice and nobody can even assist you. Okay, so following our our Recreating Responsibly series. So we're going to talk about fishing rules now in Northwest Indiana. So when you are fishing, please do not leave any litter, including our bait boxes. That's another way that we can introduce invasive species. So making sure that we take those with us, properly disposing of any fishing gear, not leaving any fishing lines as wildlife may get tangled in them, and then of course not dumping any of the fish bait into the water. So these are kind of the top 3 things that we've seen be a problem when fishing in Northwest Indiana. So we just want to make sure that we follow these to keep any invasive species out of the lake. And camping. So that's one of our top recreating activities in our area. So these are some of the top things that we would suggest you do when you camp here. So avoiding off-trail exploration. So you, of course, going along with our idea of leaving no trace. If you're in our campsite, always burning firewood within the region that you are in. So to limit the spread of invasive species. So some of these woods that you can get from different areas have invasive insects. We don't want that in our ecosystem. So making sure wherever you get your firewood, that it's region specific. Not burning materials in your campfire like styrofoam or plastic. Has that happened in the campfire? Yeah, so, not doing that, that's not only an air issue, but, it can be an issue for other people who stay at the campground as well. And then turning off all outside lights once you go to bed. There are, of course, a lot of nocturnal insects and other animals that really rely on the different times of day. So making sure that there's no lights outside for them is really important for their patterns. And cleaning up your campsite before you depart. So again, the pack in, pack out, taking everything with you, and discarding of all of your litter in disposable bins, not just leaving it on the floor, would help us out. And kayaking. So same with the boat rules. So, emptying your boat of any standing water, wiping down the sides before putting in the water. That's really important. That reduces the chances of hitchhiking seas or aquatic life. Spreading to new bodies of water. Once again, the invasive species pattern as well, just making sure nothing gets into our lake that we don't want, and properly disposing of cleaning products, never dumping them into waterways as well. Okay, so these are kind of the key big picture things that I would love for you to take away from this. So keeping off social trails is probably the biggest one that most people have seen somebody else do. That really helps preserve our ecosystems the way that they are. Leaving no trace, pack in, pack out. Keep everything with you and then take it with you when you leave. Read and following posted signs in natural spaces. And if you bring a pet, please ensure that the area is pet friendly, and then cleaning up after your pet, not keeping it away from a leash. Keep it on a leash at all times, especially if you're on a trail. And that is it.